changing the filament in a 3D printer. Okay, so this is a training session for my students, because I have two 3D printers now in my lab, on how to change the filament within a 3D printer. We're going to get into advanced stuff and easy stuff, but just know that, I have a couple training differences here, students versus clients that might be buying the product. Here we have the extruder body, and what happens is there's a little door. It's generally held down by these so what I'm doing here, if I can get my big banana hands out of the way, is I'm sliding this washer into this groove right there. Okay, just like that. You notice that this has a cropped end, and you should have filament already in place above it that is fed on some kind of coil. So here is my new strand of filament right there. And this is what I need to feed into this head. So I cut it on purpose just to show you how this works. Alright, so it usually looks like this to begin with. What I want to do is just slide these up, and they're on springs. So now I can bend this down, and I should be able to see this little gear. Alright, good. Let's hop into the software, shall we? So you're going to find software. It's going to be on a different locale on the machines at work. But just know that we're looking for a software called Print Run. So I'll probably have to show you this on the Linux machine, or where it's at if you're a student. We're looking for Print Run, Distribution, and you should look for a thing called Pronterface. Again, I'll show you where that's at. But the software looks like this. So I'm going to hit Monitor Printer and connect. Depending on which COM port it is, if it's a Linux operating system, I could have two COM ports in here. So this is how you test to make sure that you have the right machine in the right COM port. If I can go like this, hit -X on the software, and it moves, I have the right COM port. Okay? Also, a thing that you should check out every once in a while is the fact that I have this extrude, and I'm just going to make sure there's a 50 here. I have to make sure that the door is open on the extruder before I do this. I should be able to hit extrude, and I should see this freely rotate around. You can see that within the video. That's how it's rotating around. Okay, good. From time to time you should do that, only because you can check to see if all the connections are handling okay. If there's no filament being drawn into it, from time to time you could check this as a debugging thing. Okay, good. So 50 millimeters, make sure the door is open. If you do not make sure that door is open, it's going to have a thing called a cold extrude, and it's going to push this filament down into a cold head with no heat, and that could potentially be bad. Generally I use 1.75 filament, especially with students, because the worst case scenario, the head will actually grind a little thing into the filament and it will stop. But with 3 millimeter, it will just it'll drive it down pretty quick, and it's bad for the head. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is set the heater, make sure that these numbers are at least 20 degrees. Anything below 10 degrees, you should contact the instructor to make sure that everything is okay, because a thermistor could be damaged in this case. Okay, so thermistor damage could lead to about 3 or 10 degrees, but 20 degrees is good. That means the thermistor is good to go. You can also hit check temp and that generally sometimes refreshes these two numbers. Alright, so now we're going to hit heater, ABS, set. While that's loading, another thing you should, if you're new to 3D printing and you're new to running the first pronter face for the very first time, you can go in here and go to options and just make sure that your E feed rate is like, it could be 500. It doesn't really matter because the software that you put on the Atmel generally handles this, but sometimes this is set to like 30, a ridiculous low number, and it generally doesn't rotate around fast enough. So you just check that. You can raise it to some 500 and it should be good to go. And for people that just have run pronter face or print run for the very first time, I should say print run and pronter face are the same application. Pronter face is the exe or the application executable, and print run is the name of the software. I know, confusing, right? I don't know why that was the case, but yeah, that's the way it is. So what we're doing is waiting for this to reach 230 degrees, and while that happens, why don't I just educate you on what's going on here. So this is a J head, and whether it's a J head or a Bushido nozzle, they all kind of work the same. What happens is there's a power resistor here, and either one could these be positive or negative. Doesn't matter. Just a positive and negative charge are put onto this, and it heats up the brass nozzle. A thing called a thermistor, which is these right here, go in a little hole on the front of all heads, and that reads out the temperature. So that's what I'm saying. If, let's say, this thermistor was damaged in some way, the software wouldn't know when to stop, and it potentially could overheat the head and melt it. With J heads, like this one, it's made out of PEEK, okay? And PEEK at about 250 degrees will start to melt. At 260 degrees Celsius, it will start to smoke, and above that, it will become very toxic, okay? So don't ever breathe. If you have a head meltdown, just make sure you try to figure out how to shut down the machine and get out of the room quick. That's only with J heads, and I use Bushido nozzles inside the classroom because they generally don't have any way to melt down. Also, there's ways to go into the software and make sure that there's a cap, so it only reaches like 240 degrees and never melts down. So that's what this machine has. It has a software cap on it. The minute it hits 240, it will automatically shut down. Okay, so I stalled you long enough to get it to 230 degrees. This is how you unload filament. So you push down first, make sure there's a little bit coming out of the nozzle, and then pull up. Good. Then you take your filament from above and feed it into a very small hole here. And what I like to do is put this between my fingers like this and rotate it, like I'm going to go like this until it slides down in there nice and easy, and I can push and it should be able to come out of the nozzle. Okay, generally just kind of grab this filament after it cools, flick it off to the side, then I go like that, close the little door, and then reattach the washers into the front of it. Just like that. So it takes a little bit of dexterity to get the washers in front, but that way you don't have to use an Allen wrench every time you go to change. If you become fast enough, you can change filament within seconds, minutes. It's very quick. Now you can change colors that way in the middle of an extrude, and you'll get different variations of color in your print if you become fast enough at doing it. Don't try that unless you become, you practice that a few times. Okay, let's go back to the software. And I'm going to lower this down to 30 and hit extrude. And you can see it's coming right out. You'll see a little bit of smoke there. That's fine. That's just the ABS melting. Again, bad to breathe that in. It happens for a few seconds, but just don't breathe it in. ABS could, it becomes a little toxic when in smoke form. Okay. The only time you see it in smoke form is if you have a lot of it melting all at once, like that. Perfect. So now we have a fully loaded 3D printer. So that's how you change out colors, change the filament. Very easy stuff. So that is the video. Enjoy, and we'll break these videos up into different training sessions like leveling the bed and etc. and so forth as future rolls around. Have a good one. Until next time.